All right, let's get started. So first, some ground rules or just some general information, housekeeping. Hey, we encourage you to ask questions. You will see, I believe you'll see two things. You'll see a Q&A, ask questions in the Q&A. We'll try to answer those along the way. All right. And then you'll also see a chat. I encourage the Q&A. If you want to use the chat, you can chat just directly to us. You can't chat amongst yourselves. So I think that's the way that is set up. We'll do that. I will say we have reserved additional time for Q&A towards the end of the webinar, about 10 minutes or so right now. However, if we go a little quicker, we'll have more time. If we take a little bit more time, we'll have less time, but about 10 minutes is what we think we'll have time for. Also, we're recording, so if we miss something along the way, if we're not able to answer it within the context of the Q&A, we are recording the webinar. We're going to make that available either via CDN or something like that. We will be conducting a couple polls along the way, 3 to be exact. That's going to help us kind of guide the webinar. Okay, so we can kind of oscillate on the information we're sharing based upon some of the feedback. So before we do that, let's do some introductions. So right now, Corey Baker is talking. I'm the Director of Sales at GEO Jobe. I'm going to be emceeing this webinar as best as I can. Who's got my back? Jonah in marketing has got my back as a co-host. Mike Brown's going to be monitoring the Q&A in both the chat as well as Jonah for any kind of questions or trying to answer those along the way or maybe saving those for the Q&A. The stars of the show are really Rachel and Steven out of our products division. They were integral in the development of Scheduler. They know everything there is to know about it at its current state, where it's going, why we developed it a certain way. So really, those are the folks you want to stick around for. You're only going to be with me for a little bit here and a little bit at the end as well. So we're going to kick things off with a poll. Everyone loves polls. We tried to make them super easy. Let me find them. Let me see. I'm going to launch it. First poll. We'd like to know if you can participate. Are you currently using any of GEO Jobe's products today? Again, I'm going to leave this open probably like 30 seconds. Awesome. Awesome participation. Thank you so much. Let's see. I'm going to leave it open a little bit longer. All right, I have a stopping point, I think, coming up, and we are good. So I'm going to end the poll, and I'm going to go ahead and share the results. I'm going to check, make sure you guys can see those results. Awesome. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Awesome. I got confirmation. We had a little issue with that in the demo, whether or not you guys could see the results. So awesome. Well, thank you so much. Looks like it's a good split. Or we have a lot of people who are existing product customers. We love that. Thank you for coming to see Scheduler. If you've never used any of our products, we love that as well. Scheduler is going to be a great first impression for that. So let me go ahead and close that poll and we will get back on. So really quick, we're going to cover some things. So if you don't know a lot about GEO Jobe, or maybe a refresher, we were founded in 1999 and been an Esri business partner since 2002. Last year, we entered the platinum tier. So we're one of 19 platinum partners out of about 3,000. I'm probably getting that number wrong, but it is a very select group. We're super proud of that, super proud of our journey. We're highly aligned with Esri technology and where Esri is going as a company and what we're trying to do to support them and their customers. We're recognized as an innovator of the ArcGIS marketplace. We have the top 3 most popular apps. We have 10,000 provisions globally. And that is individual orgs. That is not individual users. So keep that in mind as well. We're early adopters of Esri's newer technology, right? So back when ArcGIS Online came out, so when we released admin tools, when Server became a component of ArcGIS Enterprise, we developed products and services to support customers using those. And we continue to do that today with things like Kubernetes, ArcGIS Knowledge, and we will continue to do that going forward. There we go. There's some of our specialty designations. I'm not going to read them off. You can just take a little peek. And then our products, of course, admin tools, flagship, back and more clean work, also popular. That's where that 10,000 global provisions comes from out of those 3 products. And today, of course, we're going to talk about Scheduler. So as far as that footprint is concerned, this is the global footprint. I love to show this slide. I probably need to update the figures behind it, but this is really that distribution. I can tell you everybody in the company feels this on a daily basis, right? So if it's support ticket, if it's orders coming in, if it's quotes, if it's demos, if it's whatever, It's not just US, not just North America. It's literally everywhere. So we've had to adapt and change. We started off, small company in the state of Tennessee, and then we've branched out, we've moved HQ locations, and now we've really had to adapt as a company, because when you have this many customers and this much footprint, like how do you have to change? So, what we've done and what we do and what we offer has changed. So the first thing is US-based support, right? When you have that many provisions, you have to have a support network to support that, right? So we have 24/7 US-based support that supports all of our product customers. So if you've got a build from us, you've interacted with our support, if you put in a ticket, you've interacted with our support. Some of our customers have actually elected to use that support to help support their geospatial programs, right? So whether that's they need plus up on nights, weekends, holidays, any kind of archetype we can fit in 24 hours, 365, we can figure it out. We do that out of our US-based support. GIS services, this is my bread and butter. This is what I love so much. But this is everything from staff augmentation to system architecture design to deploying ArcGIS Enterprise, scripting, data development, automation, everything kind of comes out of this crew, and I really love it personally. Software development. So our folks are really, really talented with the Azure JavaScript API and the REST API. It's inherent to the use of our products, right? But also really talented with web and mobile development and developing things from the ground up as well. They can also do things like extend, applications or extend frameworks like Experience Builder with custom widgets. Out of UAV, UAS, those talented folks are doing things like feature extraction, thermal mapping, multispectral imaging, do things like vegetation health analysis, generating 3D point clouds for things like sophisticated renderings of assets such as buildings. And then finally, last but not least, I want to mention data science. Totally out of my league right here, but those folks over there are doing awesome things with big data, developing scalable solutions by leveraging things like ArcGIS Enterprise, and maybe even looking at other technologies to integrate with that, like Databricks, right? Or utilizing graph theory with ArcGIS Knowledge to view large-scale relational data, perform activities such as risk assessment. So again, I didn't want to spend too much time on this. We have this thing I'm trying to do from 2024 on, which is walk folks across the aisle. If you're a products customer and not using services, if your services not using products, hey, we do all these things. Maybe you just didn't know. But moving on, bread and butter, this is kind of the last thing that I'm going to cover before we get into the demo, scheduler for ArcGIS. So you're not going to hear me talk too deep about it because that's for Rachel, that's for Stephen. But these are just some of the things that got us a little excited. So first off was security, right? It's not just a buzzword, it's omnipresent, it's coming more layered, it's in all our daily lives. But with Scheduler, we have things like built-in capabilities, such the ability to alert when potential sensitive data has been shared publicly from your organization. So this could be stuff like social security numbers, first and last names, credit card information. And most importantly, you control the parameters of this via regular expression. If we move on automation, who doesn't want more of this? I think some of the issues I have things, or with technology, maybe not necessarily automation, is a lot of automation kind of tells you what's wrong, but doesn't necessarily provide a fix for you. So with Scheduler, we can check the status of a service. If an error is returned, Scheduler can potentially restart that service. So that's automation that can help save you time. As far as optimization, Scheduler can help you optimize the performance of your deployment, maybe rebuild spatial or attribute indexes on a schedule to make them more performant. When's the last time you actually do that, right? When someone comes and goes, hey, like this is running really slow. Like, oh yeah, I haven't rebuilt those indexes in a while. So Scheduler can do that on an automated basis as well. Administration, we all know oversight of environments like ArcGIS Online, Portal, ArcGIS Service, time consuming, especially we introduce things like tasks, custom tasks or scripts to run into there. Scheduler can actually wrap some of those in inherently into the Scheduler framework and make it a little bit easier to manage. And I think Rachel's going to get into some more of that today. Reporting, last but certainly not least, I'm talking about ArcGIS server logs in this instance. Those identify things that are critical and vital, maybe issues within your environment. Well, with Scheduler, we have developed a way to kind of parse through some of these log files, format them way and easy to read, deliver them directly to you, and again, on your schedule. So now keep in mind, this isn't everything you can do. This is just the tip of the iceberg, right? If this is 5 things, Scheduler probably can do 56 things. Maybe you can do 156 things. This is to kind of get your mind going as Rachel goes through. I think we're going to cover a lot more. So with that, we are to poll number 2, and you're going to quit listening to talking after this one. So you might as well fill this poll out. So let's see what this poll is. It is, boom. The poll has been launched. Okay, Scheduler for functionalities. Can you all see that poll? Maybe I have to end the other poll. I am so sorry. Let me end this one. launch this one. There we go. So this is a multi-question poll. So basically, out of these functionalities, these are some of the ones I covered today. Which ones are you most interested in seeing? And you can select multiples. You don't have to just select one, I believe. Again, I'll give this probably another 30 seconds since it's a little bit more thought-provoking. And then Joan and Mike, I'll ask you to check the chat. I'm not looking at it, but I see some stuff up there too. Okay, we got about 20 seconds. I'm looking at participation rate. Got some folks tweaking their answers. That's good though. That's all right. That does a lot. Does a lot. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Share results so y'all can see those too. It worked last time. I assume it worked this time. Where are we at? 55% sure. Optimization of your spatial data. I knew that would come, and then run administrative and custom scripts. I knew custom scripts because most of the demos and stuff I've been on with prospective customers or during beta was all around custom scripts. So without further ado, let me go back. Let me end. The polls are ended. I am going to transition it. I'm going to stop sharing. Rachel, you can take it away and show them scheduler for ArcGIS.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Rachel Cohen. I'm a senior developer at GEO Jobe. I'm going to walk you through some of the key features of Scheduler. The central component of Scheduler is tasks. Each task consists of a series of steps, and each step uses one of over 70 tools which perform a variety of functionality. These tools are generally simple by themselves, but they can be combined with other tools in a variety of ways to create powerful workflows. Tasks can be created in just a few easy steps with our easy-to-use tasks wizard. And so first, we're going to look at a scheduler has a number of different types of tasks that it can do. First, we're going to look at a common administrative task, which is something a lot of people are going to want to use Scheduler for. So I am going to bring up, so here's this user in our organization. This is just a test user. They haven't logged in since December 2021. If you are somebody with a large org, or if you interact a lot with external companies or other, clients, if you have a contract or a brief project where, for a certain period of time, you want to have people from outside your organization be users in your organization, but then maybe that lasts 6 or 12 months. And then, after that time period, you don't want those people to have access to your organization. You could, try to remember to every so often go in and clean those people out, or you could have Scheduler do it for you. So this is a user, haven't logged in a while. They're a creator, which you only get so many creator licenses. So if somebody who hasn't logged in years is using up one of those, that's not good. And you can see they have a group and an item. So what this first scheduler task is going to do is first it's going to email that person and say, hey, you haven't logged in a long time. We're about to kick you out of our org. Please contact us if this is a mistake. And so you can see in this email, and we have this text generator. So this is our dynamic text generator. You have a variety of options here. When you insert these options, they are replaced with dynamic text at the time. So if you have this will be replaced with the full name of whatever user you're emailing. So that can make it, and you can have the step name. So you could say this happened in this step, the task name, the identity, whatever the case may be. So you're going to email those people, you're going to disable them, you're going to update them to a viewer so you can free up that creator license for somebody who would actually use it, and then you're going to remove them from all their groups. So let's run this task. So in this task, you can schedule at a variety of times, and you have several different options for scheduling. So in this case, I'm just saying, once a week, but you can do any time period that you want. You can also do custom dates where you just enter a series of dates, or you can run on demand whenever you want. And if a task is set to a schedule, you can also run it on demand at any time. So we're going to go ahead and run this task. You can see the results of tasks and tasks that are going to run in the logs table. And so you can see here this little scheduled one. So this is the next time these scheduled tasks are going to run. And then this one here is pending, which means it's about to run. And then these are the ones that have already run. So I hit refresh. So, yep, okay, so task is done. So one user succeeded. They were removed from one group. And we can see here, they are now a viewer, they are disabled, they don't have any more stuff. So that's an example of how Scheduler can automate routine stuff that you otherwise would have to, just remember to do. And so another useful thing that Scheduler can do that would be nice to automate is you can schedule a variety of reports. So in this example, we have several reports. So we have a report all the items created within the last 7 days, and we have groups and users as well. And you can schedule administrative reports as well, whichever administrative reports you want. And then you can send an email, and you can check this option to send the files generated by the previous step. So this is going to send all of those files that were generated here. So this particular schedule, I have it Mondays at 9 a.m. So imagine, every morning, Monday morning, first thing you come into work, and waiting for you is this email with a report of all of the items, users, and groups that were created in the last 7 days and your weekly activity report. So I'm going to go ahead and run this one as well. And so while we're waiting, we can also see, if you click on this more details, you get a summary of all the steps that ran. And then you also have this list of messages that explain various things that happened as the task was running. So if there's any errors, they'll be in there. And you can also control the amount of information that's in there by setting the task's log level. So it's working. Administrative reports take a minute to generate. And so, yep, so it generated this report. So all of these files can be downloaded here. So anyone with access to Scheduler can download those files. And you can also see, when I pull this up in just a second, I now have this email where all of these files have been emailed to me. And so you could have that, every morning, your weekly report of everything that's happened, and you wouldn't have to go in and look for it. You would just automatically get it. Another really useful thing that Scheduler can do, we talked about, Corey mentioned, protecting sensitive information, making sure that that doesn't get shared. So one thing that Scheduler does that is really useful is it can utilize webhooks, which if you're not familiar with webhooks generally are event listeners that respond when a particular event occurs, and they send a little packet of information to the application configured to receive them. Scheduler is configured to receive webhooks that you create in your organization, and then it can take action based on the content that it receives. So Scheduler has this webhooks manager as well, and you can see all of your webhooks for all of your organizations. If you're not familiar with webhooks, this is a great way to get started. You can create webhooks here. You can activate, deactivate them. If you have existing webhooks, you can migrate them to be used in Scheduler using this update payload URL. And you can also import and export them, and you can edit them, and you can view all of their properties. So, one of the things that webhooks can do is you can trigger a task based on a webhook. So, you know, the situation that Corey described, say you have a feature service that has some sensitive information, say social security numbers, and you need to have this information in your data, but you want to make sure that that service doesn't accidentally get shared publicly, because that would be really bad. So, you know, you want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And, you know, rather than constantly needing to check on it, you can set up a webhook that will monitor when an item is publicly shared. And so you can see here we have this task that's triggered based on a webhook. So in this case, I'm using a specific item for demonstration purposes, monitoring that item. And the good thing about webhooks is as soon as the webhook fires, it can run a task. So we see here what's going to happen. So we have this validate text in service field. So Corey mentioned regular expression. This is a regular expression for social security numbers. So this is saying valid services do not contain the input text or expression. So we're going to say valid services don't have any social security numbers. This is another thing you can see in Scheduler is you can take different action depending on whether content succeeds or fails. You can have different paths. So in this case, if the content succeeds, meaning it passed the check and it doesn't have any social security numbers, you don't need to do anything else. It will just be done. If it does have social security numbers in it, then it goes to the next step and it will be automatically unshared. And then you will email the owner and let them know that that item was recently publicly shared and it shouldn't have been. So we're going to see what this looks like in just a minute. I will pull up this item, not that one. Sorry, just one moment. And so one of the good things about webhooks is that they allow you to be reactive. So in a situation like this, you know, you'd want to know right away as soon as that item was publicly shared. And so in this case, we have this item. So this is the item that the webhook is configured to listen for. So we see right now, this item is shared to your organization. It has some fake social security numbers in it for purposes of demonstration. I'm going to go ahead and share that publicly. And you can see immediately the task has been set to run. So, and this will just take a few seconds. Yep, so you can see that that task succeeded. And now we have this item. You can see it has been shared back to organization. So if that item did really contain sensitive information, the moment it was shared, it would automatically be unshared. So webhooks for items, users, and groups are only available for ArcGIS Enterprise, but if you have ArcGIS Online, no worries. Scheduler has another option for that. We have our monitor tools. And what our monitor tools do is every time the tool runs, it takes a snapshot of your content, various properties that it's been told to watch for. And then the next time the tool runs, it compares the current state of your items or users or groups against the snapshot. So it can tell when things have changed. So in this case, we're looking for items that have been shared publicly. So every time the task runs, it will find items that have been shared publicly. And then you can see it's the same workflow as the webhook triggered one. And what we also have that's really helpful is we have this visual view. So it's a flow chart. If you're familiar with Model Builder, it kind of looks and behaves like Model Builder. And so it lets you see the different paths that the content can take. So that's really good for visualizing what's happened when content succeeds or fails. So these two tasks are two different ways of doing the same thing, one for ArcGIS Enterprise, one for ArcGIS Online. They work slightly differently. This one needs to be scheduled, whereas this one reacts automatically, but both of them can be used to ensure that no sensitive data is shared publicly, and they can also be used to respond to a number of other events. Another thing that Scheduler does is it interacts with services. So all of your services for your organization, you can view in our services viewer. You can see their various properties. You can filter them. You can bulk start and stop them. You can edit their properties individually. And you can filter. So if you want to find real quick, whether a service with a certain name is started or stopped, you can see several properties here that you can see at a glance. And we also have tasks that interact with services. So a common thing that you might want to do is restart. If a service is stopped, restart your service. So if you have ArcGIS Server, if you're primarily ArcGIS Enterprise, if you're working with ArcGIS Server, you can add your ArcGIS Server machine as a connection to Scheduler, and then you can interact with your services via Scheduler. So in this case, we have this restart services, which it's going to check for service status. It's going to look to see whether a service is either stopped or returning an error. And then if it is, it's going to start that service. So here's an example of this. We have this test service. It is stopped. And this is configured to check that service. So we're going to go ahead and run that. Yep, okay, and so we can see, here's our service, it's now started. So that can be a great thing if you're worried about, if you have a really important service that, would a lot of things would go wrong if it went down, rather than having to wait to hear from somebody, hey, this service is down, you can have Scheduler regularly check it, and if it is down, restart it, and you don't even have to get involved. Another thing you can do with services, so service tasks are primarily for ArcGIS Server, ArcGIS Enterprise, but you can, regardless of whether you have ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, you can also rebuild indexes. And one thing you can use this with is we have another type of trigger, which is a task that's triggered when a feature service accumulates a certain number of updates. So if you're not familiar with database and feature layer indexes, they essentially they improve performance. And so if a database or a service has a lot of records added or deleted, sometimes that index can get a little bit out of sync with the data, and that can cause it to become slower and slower. And usually you don't think to reindex things until somebody complains that something is running slowly. But with Scheduler, you can actually have a task that will trigger your database or your layer to rebuild indexes every X number of edits. So, you can configure the amount, but say, every 100 edits, just rebuild the index. And that can ensure that your service or your database continues to have its peak performance, and you can just set up this task once and forget about it, and you don't have to wait for people to complain and say that your service is running slowly. And a final really powerful thing that our ArcGIS scheduler for ArcGIS can do is it can access the ArcGIS server logs. So if you have an ArcGIS server machine connection, you can see the server logs. And so now the way that Scheduler interacts with the server logs is Scheduler comes with an additional application called Scheduler Satellite. That's basically a mini scheduler. And because the server log files are located on the machine where ArcGIS Server is, in order to read those files, you actually need an application that's locally installed there. But if you don't want to install Scheduler there, or you have multiple ArcGIS Server machines, you can install Scheduler Satellite. Satellite will interact with the logs, and then it will pass information back to the Scheduler parent. And so what Scheduler Satellite is doing is directly reading the log files on the ArcGIS Server machine and sending that information to the parent. So you can view those log files and filter them in a lot of ways. You can also have them trigger tasks. So this is another type of trigger, a task triggered based on something in the server logs. So the server logs can alert you to a variety of things. They can alert you to things going wrong. They can alert you to sometimes just a service is published. It depends on how you've set the log level. But you can have a task that's triggered when a server log is created that passes various filters. So in this case, this is a task that's triggered when a server log of level severe is created. So that's the really bad stuff that you would probably want to know about right away. So, and this task just sends an email, because that's probably, the most important thing in that situation is just have somebody know that this occurred, and then, they can log into their machine and look at their configuration. And so this way, this is also another proactive thing where rather than having to wait for somebody to tell you that something is broken, you can have a scheduler just, be checking, and every time a severe log occurs, you would automatically get an alert. And then one final thing that scheduler can do that I know a lot of people are very excited about, it was the top thing in the poll, is run custom scripts. So any script that you have that can be run from the command line can be run in scheduler and schedule using scheduler's functionality. And so if you want to just use scheduler to run a custom script by itself, that is perfectly fine. You can do that. You can also use scheduler to combine a custom script with out-of-the-box scheduler functionality. So you might say, run this script to perform some custom processing, and then run this scheduler tool. So, all of your existing scripts, anything that can be run from the command line, scheduler basically has the command line input. You can schedule your scripts to run. On the other hand, if you are not a developer, if you don't currently have any custom scripts, but you have some functionality that you'd like that is maybe a little more specific or a little more complex to be an out-of-the-box tool, our professional services team does custom consulting, and they could help you and write a script for you that could be used in Scheduler. And so we've gone over a big chunk of the things that Scheduler can do. It can do many more things than there's time to show in this particular demonstration, but you've seen a lot of the things that Scheduler can do. It's can be helpful in a variety of ways for both enterprise and ArcGIS Online organizations. Like all of GEO Jobe's products, Scheduler is user feedback driven. So we also are happy to hear feedback from our customers about features that they would want. So if there's something you'd like to see in Scheduler, you can reach out to our support team, and we can log that as a feature request and look into whether we can implement that. And many of our products, we've added many new features as a result of user requests. And then finally, while using Scheduler, Scheduler First comes with this very helpful user's guide, which you can actually download from within Scheduler. And it has a ton of information. If any of the stuff I just talked about seems a little confusing, if you're not familiar with webhooks, it talks about webhooks in here. If you're not sure how to set up a task, it walks you through it. You can download that from within Scheduler. It comes with Scheduler. And then also GEO Jobe offers 24/7 support for our products. So if you have a question about Scheduler, you need to know how to do something, any time of the day or night, you can message our support team and they would be happy to help you out there. And so now that you've seen what Scheduler can do, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen, and he's going to talk about how to acquire Scheduler, how to install it, system requirements, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Rachel. I'm Stephen McCall. I'm the Director of Products here at GEO Jobe, and I'll be speaking briefly on Scheduler installation and requirements. So Scheduler is designed to be installed on-premise, so you can have complete control over where Scheduler is located. You can run Scheduler on any Windows machine that can access your ArcGIS organization, and that goes for both ArcGIS Online and Enterprise. Scheduler's client-side interface is run as an application on Windows IIS, and all of Scheduler's functionality is run server-side from a Windows service. If you'd like to utilize webhooks for event triggers, you'll also need to run Scheduler from a fully qualified domain name with an issued certificate. As far as machine requirements, you'll need to run Windows Server 2016 or higher, or Windows 10 or higher if you're running from a local PC. Microsoft Internet Information Services, and MongoDB are required installs. For machine specs, we recommend a quad-core processor minimum or 8-core or higher for larger organizations, as well as 16 gigabyte RAM for optimal performance. And these specs will depend on your ArcGIS organization size. And Scheduler also comes with that optional utility called Scheduler Satellite that can be used to reach local files that cannot be accessed remotely. And this can enable you to perform actions from Scheduler where access would not have been previously possible, such as reading ArcGIS server logs directly. A communications link between Scheduler and Satellite is created in order to run tasks on Satellite as if they were being run from Scheduler. And Scheduler Satellite has the same system requirements as the main Scheduler application. And future applications of Satellite will also expand this functionality to help Scheduler perform more powerful tasks outside of the REST API limitations. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Corey.
Awesome, and thank you, Stephen and Rachel. So let me just go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so first off, that was awesome. So that was great. I don't think I ever come out of one of those not was something new that I learned. So hopefully same for you. I mean, if you're part of the beta program, maybe you had some exposure, but maybe this is the first time seeing it. But round of applause, Rachel and Stephen. I think there's an emojis button. If y'all want to hit that for them, not for me, go ahead. So I think we have one more poll for you before we do some takeaways and then Q&A. We have a lot of Q&A. We see all the questions. We definitely appreciate it. Let's get this poll knocked out because we want to do a quick pulse check. And let me just hit it and launch it. And I think I can do it here. There we go. The polls are the hardest part. So yes, no, maybe so. What do you think of Scheduler? Do you think it's something useful for you or your organization? Are you on the fence? We're really curious, right? So I think as Rachel had said, and let me actually start a little timer for myself because I'm gonna let these results go in, but we don't want to go too far over because we definitely want to hit that Q&A. But I think as Rachel had stated, and just like I got like leading in, we're hitting wave tops. We're hitting wave tops. A lot of demos of Scheduler take 1 or 2 hours, depending on how deep we want to go. And all these questions that you're asking all go into that. So that is great. That helps us provide better documentation for our customers. So I'm going to give it about 15 more seconds. Make sure everybody has participated. We're sitting at, we're good on time. So I'm happy about that because we definitely want to get these questions answered for you. Let's see, we'll give another few seconds. And we're going to end it there. We'll share the results. Yes, no, maybe so. So we definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much for the feedback. That is awesome. Hopefully what we provided today was valuable to you. So with that, let me just get back on the PowerPoint here. Some key takeaways, because I don't think we talked about any of this along the way. So we're going to move into Q&A right after this. So key takeaways. Pricing, everybody always wants to know, $2,500 per connector. So you have one ArcGIS Enterprise, that's $2,500 per year, by the way. One ArcGIS Alliance, $2,500. That's where we're starting at pricing with Scheduler. Promo code will be emailed to you. This is new. Most people maybe on the GEO Jobe side don't even know this is a thing. So hey, if you attended this webinar today, you're interested in Scheduler, we're going to put together some sort of discount for early adopters of Scheduler that attended this webinar. So it'll be exclusive to you all. We appreciate you. This is the way we show that appreciation as well. So trials are available. So probably up to 30 days, trials are available. That's normally what we do with our products. We can be a little flexible on that, but we want to make sure that it's valuable to you and your organization and it's going to work, right? So trials are definitely available. Try before you buy. And then last but not least, inquiries. So we're going to cover some Q&A. We're going to try to answer the messages. If you have any other questions after this, you can reach out to sales@geo-jobe.com. If one of my colleagues would drop that alias into the chat, that would be great. Also drop connect in there. I don't mind that either. If you have questions about pricing, you want more information, you want documentation, reach out to us. We are happy to provide all of that. So with that, we got 20 minutes, which is perfect, to do some Q&A. So how about we do that? It's Q&A time. We got the question. So I'm going to hand this portion over I think that as we talked about, probably Jonah and Mike, and just probably bring those over to Rachel and Steven and get through as much as we can. And we'll do a short wrap up at the end, everybody. And definitely appreciate it. So go ahead and take it, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Brown, Deputy Director of Support. I've been taking your questions and getting them ready for the end here. And we'll go ahead and just jump right on in and start off. Tom Mueller asks, does the automation work with Model Builder?
So the automation does not interact directly with Model Builder. I know sometimes Model Builder scripts or Model Builder models can be exported as Python scripts. In that case, you could run that script in Scheduler. It currently does not interact directly with Model Builder models, but that is something that we could log as a feature request, and we could look into implementing that.
Thanks, Rachel. Next question, C. Woodward. Does the password of the task scheduler ever expire, and can a service account or a GMSA account be used?
So Scheduler has its own authentication. So you create users. When you first log in, you'll create a user that will be your super user. And then all other users, you can choose to either authenticate via your organization. So you can have somebody log into Scheduler with the same credentials that they use in their organization, or you can have an external user or an internal user to Scheduler who logs in with username and password that is saved to Scheduler. So if you're logging in with your organization credentials, whatever login stuff is happening in your organization, that is also what will be happening with Scheduler. So if your passwords need to be reset after a certain period of time, you'll need that new password to get into Scheduler. Whatever forms of authentication you use in your organization, you'll use in Scheduler. For the internal Scheduler users, those do not expire. You do have the option to reset the password, but the passwords don't expire.
Thank you for that. Chris Blinn asks, how often can you schedule a task to run?
So the most frequent at this point is every 5 minutes. How often you want to schedule a task is going to depend on what it is you want to do. And also, the number of, probably the biggest factor is going to be the amount of content that you're processing. So a task that processes 100 items can run more frequently than a task that processes 100,000 items. And certain tools are more resource intensive than others. Tools also have, when you open the individual tools, they have a info property that you can click on that will show you all the information about the tool. One of the properties in there is called resource intensiveness, and that will tell you, how long and how resource intensive the tool is relative to other tools for the same organization on the same machine, because the amount of content being processed and the specifications of the server where Scheduler is installed will be the biggest factors in determining how much resource usage there is and how frequently you're going to want to schedule tasks. But we also have the resource intensive property that will say, relative to other tools processing the same amount of content on the same machine, how resource intensive is this particular tool? So that will help you, plan out how you can schedule various things.
Next question is from Roberto Mulatto. Based on the functionalities exposed, I'm assuming that Scheduler for ArcGIS needs to run under the identity of a portal/AGOL administrator. Is this assumption correct? And if so, which is the minimum set of permissions required for a custom admin role in Portal or ArcGIS Online for Scheduler?
So for all of our products, to run tasks and to interact with Scheduler, we recommend that all of the users running tasks are native admins. So, it's been our experience that sometimes with custom admin roles, because, our products and Scheduler as well do, some very complex things, and they access a lot of different things, and, they access some things deep in the system. We found that a native admin role is the best way to ensure that you're going to have the permissions to do all the things that you need to do. So we recommend that everybody running tasks in Scheduler be a native org admin. Scheduler does have a role system where we have a viewer role, which viewers in Scheduler, and this is separate from the viewer role in your organization. This is a role within Scheduler that this person can log into Scheduler and they can see tasks, they can open everything up, but they can't actually run tasks or do anything. So if you wanted to have somebody, be able to see what's going on in Scheduler, but they're not a native org admin, you could add them as a viewer user, and then they would be able to, look at everything that's going on in Scheduler, but they wouldn't actually be able to run any tasks.
Thanks. Ethan Bassett asks, does generating the reports through Scheduler consume credits like some reports through ArcGIS Online do?
So the administrative reports work the same way as the administrative reports in your ArcGIS Online organization. So, whatever credits are consumed by creating a particular report, in your ArcGIS organization, on the website, that same thing is going to happen, generating the report in Scheduler. The exporting items, users, and groups to CSV, that kind of thing, that does not consume credits.
Okay. Josh Ladnier asks, would you be able to sort the columns as needed in the UI, say moving initiated by closer to the file versus start and end times?
Yeah, so for the log files, yeah, so you can sort you can sort all of the columns by, essentially whatever, ascending or descending based on whatever property. So the logs, for example, they are set with the most recent ones being first, but you could, have that sorted the opposite way, see the oldest ones first. We also have a variety of filters. So you can filter, if you're familiar with our other products, you're probably familiar with our filters. We have the same types of filters for all the tables in Scheduler. So you can filter the logs and say, show me all of the logs that are from, 2 days ago in that 24-hour period, or, show me all of the, show me all of the logs of tasks that had an error or that kind of thing. And the same for the tasks table and all of our other tables, you can filter and sort just about anything.
My apologies. Couldn't find the mute button there for a second. Karen Clark asks, does the scheduler display webhooks in your org used for other applications such as Survey 123?
Yes, Scheduler. Well, so webhooks for Survey 123 are feature service webhooks. Scheduler does not currently support feature service webhooks. Scheduler interacts with webhooks for items, users, and groups, so content webhooks, which are in ArcGIS Enterprise. But it will show content, items, users, and groups webhooks, whether they're being used in Scheduler or whether they're being used in some other application. So all the items, users, and groups webhooks in your organization will be displayed in the webhooks viewer, and you can manage those and activate and deactivate those just the same as the ones that you created for Scheduler.
All right, while we're on webhooks, Jonathan Rigsby is asking, do webhooks for enterprise work for versions previous to the 11.1 release?
Yes, webhooks for enterprise are supported to a certain degree starting in 10.7, but 10.8 and above, there's full support for webhooks. What is different in 11.2, there is actually an interface where you can interact with their webhooks in the organization. Prior to that, you can't see them in your organization, but you can access them via the API, and Scheduler can access them. So 10.8 and above webhooks, you're good to go.
Thank you. Wayne Wassler asks, for Scheduler, do you need to have your AGS servers federated with either Portal or AGO?
No, so you can add an ArcGIS server machine that is not federated. You would need to enter username and password and have credentials saved to be able to authenticate and use that server. So when you add an ArcGIS server machine connection, it will ask you whether that server is federated with one of your organizations, and if so, which one. And if it is federated, it will just use the authentication for that organization. But if it's not federated, you can still use it. You just have to enter the authentication manually.
Patrick Hess asks, can the services feature work with image services published from image server?
It can work with, any ArcGIS server machine that you can connect to.
Okay. Going down, Wayne Wessler asks again, are the services based on a cache like admin tools? And how often does the cache refresh, if so? And is there a limit on the number of endpoints/services?
So the services viewer is not based on a cache. Every time you load it, it will just get the services from your organization. It does have a refresh button. So if you're viewing the services, you can, if something changes, you can hit refresh and you can get the latest. When it's running a task, it will, at the beginning of every task, it will get the services and get the latest information on the services that way.
Okay. Wayne Wessler again asks, does it work with servers in high availability/multiple machine configuration?
So that is something that we are currently working on, and we have it down as a feature request. So that is something that we hope to be able to support in the future. Currently, we don't have full support for that, but we can log it as a feature request.
Kurt Sari is asking if we have a list of available tasks so that they can see what is available and what's possible.
Yeah, so in the scheduler user's guide, there is an appendix, I believe, that goes through all of the tools and it gives the same information. So when you are interacting with a tool in scheduler, there will be a little info circle next to it. If you click on that, it will tell you all the information about the tool. That same information is, I believe, included as, or can be at some point will be included as an appendix in the ArcGIS or in the scheduler for ArcGIS users guide. So we can get that information to you and it will list all of the tools and everything they can do and their resource intensiveness and that kind of thing.
Thanks. Chase Bernard asks, would REST service performance monitoring be accomplished through log monitoring, or is there another mechanism?
So if you know of, so you can monitor the logs for certain codes that indicate particular issues. So yeah, that could be a way to monitor, to have a task triggered based on the server logs and to monitor your services in that way. And you could say, if a certain code occurs, then you could have an email sent to you or you could trigger a task in that way.
Okay. Roberto Avia asks, are the custom scripts that we can write, are they strictly Python based, or can we write them in other languages?
So a script, it can be in any language. So anything that can be run in the command line can be run in scheduler.
Alex Rodriguez asks, can scheduler monitor certificate validity and warn before they expire?
So if you're talking about certificates in your portal or your server, yes, actually. So scheduler has a couple of tools that can perform various checks on your portal and on your server and alert you to various issues. And one of those is things like licenses and certificates that are expiring soon or have already expired.
Okay. Chase Bernard is asking, would you consider Scheduler a complementary product to ArcGIS Monitor?
Yeah, they can go together. They have, a certain amount of overlap in that both of them, can be used to check for problems and get alerts and stuff, but they do pretty different things. So yeah, it could be a good complement. You can definitely have both. It's not a problem to have both. And, together they can provide you with, a lot of really good functionality.
Okay. We do have an anonymous question here. How does the scheduler work to find standalone ArcGIS server to monitor server logs? These servers are not connected in ArcGIS Enterprise or AGOL.
Right. So what you do there, so when scheduler is monitoring the logs, it's actually not connecting to the server via enterprise, it's connecting to the satellite. So any machine that the satellite is installed on, you would just install it on your ArcGIS server machine, doesn't matter if it's federated. And then you just need to set it up in scheduler, and you need to say connect to this satellite that's running at this URL on this machine. And then scheduler can talk directly to that satellite and get the local files. So it has nothing to do with your enterprise organization. It doesn't have to be federated.
Eduardo Alvarez asks, does scheduler work with any version of ArcGIS Enterprise? I'm assuming they're asking if there's a minimum version.
It works with 10.7 and above, which is what is, currently supported by Esri.
We do have another anonymous question. Is there an out-of-the-box task option to call to external REST endpoints, or does it need to be done through a custom task?
Yes, actually. So we do have a handful of out-of-the-box tasks. We call them our template tasks, and they come pre-configured with a series of steps of things that you might want to do. And so you can just add those, and you basically just click add this one, and you give it a schedule, and it's already all set up for you. So yeah, if you aren't quite sure how to get started with a custom task, you can use one of the out-of-the-box tasks.
Great. Chris Blinn asks, if you schedule a task to say every 5 minutes and it takes 6 minutes to run, how does scheduler handle the overrun and subsequent task kickoff?
So scheduler uses a queue. So you determine how many tasks you run at a time. Usually we recommend one, but scheduler just uses a queue system. So when a task starts to run, it goes in the queue. Scheduler will see in the queue, this is the next one that's scheduled to run. It will run it. And then, whenever it's done, it will just go to the next one in the queue. So it would just wait until it was done and then run the next one.
Okay. Alex Rodriguez asks, are there any limits on the number of services/users or content in general that it can report on?
No, I mean, scheduler, at GEO Jobe, we've worked with some very, very large organizations. So, there's no limit. If you are reporting on massive amounts of content, it could take longer and consume more resources, but there's no built-in limit in scheduler, and all of our products can be used with very large organizations. We're talking like 250,000 items or more.
All right, that was the last question that we had time for. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Corey to tie everything up.
Perfect. So I assume everyone can see, and I went back to that, my Q&A time slide. So I've kind of posted everyone as we went. And thank you for all the questions. I know we didn't get to them all. That is insane. And you guys asked some really, really great questions as well. What I said in the chat is, hey, we're going to compile all that. We're going to put a document together. It's going to be a supplemental. We'll send it off to the group. We'll send it out to the individuals. We'll make sure we get the answer to those questions. So with that said, we have reached the end of our time today. So we sincerely want to thank you for joining. We hope it was valuable. We hope you learned something. We hope scheduler is useful to you. And most importantly, I want to thank you for your time. We know your time is important, which is one of the very reasons that we built Scheduler for ArcGIS. So you could have more time to grow your geospatial program and spend less time managing your environments. So until next time, this is Corey Baker and the GEO Jobe crew. We are signing off, and hopefully you enjoyed the webinar, and we'll hear from you soon. All right, thank you.